So David Byrne arrived at Benchmark with ambitions to contribute to the partnership fast in any way he could, and he had some ideas for new businesses for which he hoped he could find entrepreneurs. One of the concepts that kept nagging him was an e-commerce business that he called My Store, which would sell online everything for everyday needs. Start with groceries and move toward an online Walmart. We've got some less family-friendly language here, but I'm quoting from the book, so fast forward if you have little ones listening. Well, shit, Bruce Dunleavy said when Dave told him his idea as the two sat in Dunleavy's office. Have I got the plan for you? Dunleavy reached into a stack of papers and pulled out a business plan called Oasis. He tossed it to Byrne, explaining that he and the other partners lacked the balls to do it. Would Byrne be willing to be the guy? And Oasis, of course, is Webvan, which I remember Webvan as a crater, a cautionary tale of what could go wrong in the .com excesses. But going back and doing the research here and looking at it, this was actually a great bet to make.
Oh, this is exactly the type of bet you should be making in venture capital.
Totally. This is the exact kind of swagger bet with the right aligned asymmetric upside and downside that if you want to be taking the right kind of risks to establish yourself as one of the premier early stage venture capital firms, you should be doing.
All right. So what was Webvan?
What was the company or what was the deal?
What was the company and why was it so swagger filled to do it?
Have we talked about Webvan on every season episode so far in season 11, I think?
That might be true.
Yeah, I feel like everybody knows.
The theme of season 11 is Webvan.
There we go. There we go.
That's so true. We probably hit it on Walmart and Amazon.
So, of course, as we've talked about, it was Louis Borders, the founder of Borders Books, which had then gotten absorbed by Kmart and then spun out. And he had left as part of all that. And he felt like Borders didn't realize his vision. He wanted another big swing, bite at the apple. He knew about Kmart, Walmart. He wanted to build Amazon, what Amazon is today. He wanted to build Amazon.com. And the modern Amazon.com, he was just a couple decades too early. And so that's what Webvan was. It was anything you want, starting with groceries. That was their wedge. But it was anything you want from the web on a van delivered to your doorstep.
And importantly, now, Webvan did have the sort of last mile component as the initial founding wedge. Whereas Amazon, they're like, yeah, we'll get it to you. And it might take 2 weeks. And of course, then they get to Prime and they get to Prime Now. And now they're trying to do 1 day Prime. And all sorts of things can happen the same day if you're spoiled like me and live in Seattle. And Webvan had that from the start. And it was equally ambitious. Louis Borders did want to do food and everything. It was the everything store at the edge, sort of close to your house whenever you want it. And it was so ambitious that even the Benchmark partners, after they invested, kept trying to talk him into, could we just do food? Do we have to compete with everything Amazon is doing right away?
And the Benchmark partnership as a whole, but I think especially the original 4 Benchmark partners were the ones really pushing David to push Louis. Hey, can we just do food? Can we scale down? David totally falls in love with Louis. Like, this is what he's there to do from his perspective.
And it did feel like this was the sell to Dave. Hey, leave your lucrative, successful executive search firm because if you come here, you can make big bets. And so I think that was the thing that was like always on his mind is, well, if there's a bet that everyone else at the firm is too scared to make, maybe I'll make it.
Yep, he was that guy, which Benchmark totally needed.
Yes.
They needed to re-inject that DNA into the firm.
Yep.
And this deal is a great deal to make, as I alluded to. So here's how the deal goes down.
And this is great because this is not how people remember it. Everyone goes, Webvan, ball of flames, terrible venture investment, lit some more money on fire than I can ever remember, emblematic of .com insanity and incorrectness of everybody lost their mind. This is a great risk-adjusted bet to make by Benchmark, but B, not actually that big of a smoking crater relative to today.
So it's a $7 million round. Benchmark splits the deal with Mike Moritz at Sequoia. Sequoia does $3.5 million. Benchmark does $3.5 million. Moritz and Byrne join the board. I think they each get 10% of the company. And then Webvan does do late stage, one or two, I can't remember if it was one or two, at least one, quote unquote, later stage, but mezzanine rounds from completely other investors. Sequoia and Benchmark don't put more money into the company before they go public. And then Webvan goes public. During the go-go eras, it trades up to an $8 billion market cap. So, at the high point for this Webvan bet that Benchmark and Sequoia each put $3.5 million into.
That's what like Lyft is today.
They go from, let's assume it was 10% that they each got. Maybe there's a little dilution in there, but let's keep it easy. $3.5 million to $800 million in public stock, within 2-3 years. So man, fantastic. I don't think they got liquid on a lot of it. I think they were still locked up before the dot-com crash happened and it cratered. So whether they got any money out or not, I don't know. But man, what a great bet to make. I stand up and applaud for Webvan.
And the thing that I really want to underscore here is for the asset class of actual venture capital, early stage, high risk, high return stuff, you want to back someone who's got a missionary focused dream. Like Louis Borders was ready for his next act and he wanted it to be really, really big. And it was probably the right bet, maybe at the wrong time. It's probably a decade, maybe 2 decades early, but the vision was right. And so you're betting on someone that kind of has to be bigger than their previous win. So they have an incentive to make it really, really big. And as a venture investor, you want to be buying all that risk. You don't really want to be making these sort of risk mitigated bets and have no, that is why you have a portfolio of 30 companies. Go get all the risk you can.
And especially for $3.5 million, so that's less than 5% of the fund. For sure. Of course. Do that all day long. So that starts to bring some swagger back to Benchmark. And then you alluded to eBoys. It takes a couple of years for eBoys to get written and come out. But what a ballsy move. These guys are yeah, let's bring in an established author. So Randall Strauss had written at that point Steve Jobs and the Next Big Thing about Next. And, the tagline on the book, which I think was part of, the actual book ended up being different than I think what everybody thought, but was the first inside account of venture capitalists at work. And it's the Benchmark guys, they got nothing to lose again at this point. So why not? Let's be the first inside account of venture capitalists at work. And Randall gets access to everything. He sits in partner meetings. He's the author in residence. He's there at 2480 Sand Hill. He's in the portfolio companies.
I think he even visited the Webvan facility.
Yep. Which was off limits to all press, all outsiders.
Super private. Yep. Even at their launch, they didn't let any press inside to see it because they were afraid of giving up trade secrets.
He embeds with eBay. It was crazy to do this. And at the beginning of eBoys, Randall writes in the introduction here, there was no precedent within the venture business for providing an outsider such access. I suspect that the Benchmark partners thought that something ballsy like this, which was sure to make the graybeards of the guild squirm, must ipso facto be a good thing. Which is funny. And of course, it's more complicated than that. But I think it's emblematic of they got the swagger back. They're you know what? You got to play like there's nothing to lose here.
Who got the truth? Is it you? Is it you? Is it you? Sit me down, say it straight. Another story on the way. Who got the truth? Who got the truth now?